At 2:32 p.m. local time, a Ukrainian Air Force MiG-29 roared into the sky from a clandestine base, climbing into the crisp blue expanse, armed with two American-made GBU-62 JDAM-ER bombs, each weighing 1,000 pounds, mounted on NATO-standard MAU-12 bomb racks. Ukrainian technicians, using makeshift voltage regulators and electrical tape, had jury-rigged these racks to integrate advanced Western weaponry onto the Soviet-era airframe. Over the next 15 minutes, this Cold War relic would navigate Russia's formidable air defense network, among the world's deadliest, to deliver GPS-guided bombs onto a strategic ammunition depot in Malinovka. The MiG-29, a multi-role fighter, boasts a top speed of Mach 2.25, roughly 1,491 miles per hour, a combat range of 888 miles with external fuel tanks, and a service ceiling of 59,055 feet. Powered by RD-33 afterburning engines, it can carry a weapons payload of up to 7,716 pounds. The GBU-62 JDAM-ER bomb, weighing 1,000 pounds, carries a 500-pound warhead packed with 192 pounds of tritonal explosive, offering an extended glide range of 45 miles and a circular error probable (CEP) of 16 feet with full GPS guidance, degrading to 33 feet with inertial navigation (INS). Russia's S-400 air defense system has a maximum range of 249 miles with the 40N6 missile, traveling at Mach 14, or about 10,563 miles per hour, with a reaction time of 62 seconds at 62 miles. The Buk M3 system engages targets from 1.5 to 43 miles at altitudes from 49 to 114,829 feet, using 9 M317 missiles at Mach 4.5, with a 10 to 20 second reaction time. The Tor M2 system covers 0.6 to 9.9 miles, targeting objects from 33 to 32,808 feet, firing 9 M338 missiles at Mach 2.8, with a 4 to 8 second reaction time. Russia's Su-35, a multi-role fighter, matches the MiG's Mach 2.25 speed, equipped with an N035 Irbis-E radar with a 249-mile detection range, carrying R-77 missiles with a 68-mile range, Mach 4 speed, 40G maneuverability, and active radar homing. The S-400 radar suddenly switched to target tracking mode. In the cockpit, Captain Andriy, Sokil Kovalenko's headset shifted from intermittent beeps to a steady screech, signaling he was locked by Russia's advanced defenses. At 62 miles, an S-400 40N6 missile could reach him in 62 seconds. Sokil deployed chaff countermeasures, releasing shimmering clouds of metal strips as he dove, trading 30,000 feet of altitude for a speed of 690 miles per hour to escape the radar lock. The chaff, however, triggered an unintended consequence. The radar bloom not only jammed the S-400, but also activated every passive sensor within 62 miles. Soon, 3 Su-35s from a northeastern patrol detected the signal and closed in at Mach 1.8. The MiG's radar warning receiver, RWR, screamed as the Su-35's N035 Irbis-E radars switched to target tracking. Sokil's dive dropped him to 25,000 feet, pushing his speed to 746 miles per hour, but exposed him to a new threat. The RWR detected signals from a Buk M3 radar, pulsing in short bursts. He had entered the system's optimal engagement zone between 15,000 and 30,000 feet, where 9 M317 missiles could fire in under 20 seconds. Sokil had to align the JDAM bomb's GPS immediately, requiring 15 seconds of straight flight to ensure satellite lock and a 16-foot accuracy. The alignment bar crawled across the display, 40%, 60%, 80%. Suddenly, an Su-35, 37 miles away, accelerated to Mach 1.4, closing fast. At this speed, its R-77 missile would be in range within 3 minutes. GPS alignment completed just as the RWR signaled the Su-35's radar locking on. Sokil banked hard right, then reversed, executing an S-turn to disrupt the Buck M3 firing solution. Each defensive maneuver burned precious fuel, dropping reserves to 5,732 pounds, 441 pounds below the planned return threshold. The Su-35 pilot proved cunning, calculating an intercept vector that pinned the MiG between the Su-35 and the S-400, a classic hammer and anvil tactic. Evading the Su-35 would send Sokil into the S-400 kill zone. Dodging the S-400 would make him an easy target for the Su-35. No option was safe. The Malinovka target data lit up on his screen. Satellite imagery from 6 hours earlier showed heavy vehicle activity, with trucks hauling munitions and equipment for the 39th Guards Brigade, prepping for an advance on Pokrovsk. Fresh intelligence via encrypted data link confirmed the 110th Guards Motorized Infantry Brigade had joined, elevating the target's priority. A successful strike could paralyze Russia's offensive plans for weeks. But to reach the drop point, Sokil had to navigate overlapping air defense zones, with the Su-35 on his tail and fuel dwindling. Suddenly, GPS jamming hit like an electronic storm. The navigation display flickered with static as Russian electronic warfare units flooded the spectrum. The JDAM-ER bombs switched to inertial guidance, dropping accuracy from 10 to 33 feet, threatening the mission's ability to destroy fortified bunkers. The MAU-12 rack reported a voltage error, an issue Ukrainian technicians hadn't anticipated during rushed integration. Sokil faced an impossible choice: reboot the weapon system, disabling defenses for 30 seconds and exposing him to the Su-35 and air defenses, or risk the bombs failing to release. Gritting his teeth, he initiated the reboot, watching defensive screens go dark one by one. The sudden loss of jamming had an immediate effect. Without electronic cover, the Panzer S-1 system's thermal camera clearly detected the MiG-29's engine heat against the cold sky. The Panzer's electro-optical system, immune to radar jamming, locked on to the heat signature. 20 seconds into the reboot, Sokil spotted two 57E6 missiles from the Panzer streaking upward through his canopy, leaving bright trails in the dusk. With the RWR still rebooting, no warning sounded. Sokil yanked left, pulling the stick into his gut, flipping the MiG in a 7G defensive roll. The G-forces pinned him to the seat, vision narrowing to a gray tunnel. The maneuver saved him, but the afterburners consumed 794 pounds of fuel in 40 seconds, dropping reserves to 4,938 pounds, perilously close to the minimum for a safe return. In desperation, Sokil deployed flares. Burning magnesium created dozens of infrared decoys, fooling the Panzer's heat seekers. But this also broadcast his position across radar and infrared spectra, attracting every sensor in the area. The voltage regulator stabilized, showing green. 3 years ago, mating American precision weapons to Soviet jets was unthinkable. Now, Ukrainian technicians made it routine. Nearing the target, Sokil's fuel gauge read 5,291 pounds, just enough for a straight return without further maneuvers. The JDAM bombs had to be released within 4 minutes or the mission would fail. But the Su-35 struck. 40 miles behind, the Russian pilot switched the N-035 Irbis-E radar to single-target tracking. Sokil's RWR blared the distinct tone of a firing radar. Seconds later, an R-77 missile would launch, its 40G-capable active seeker immune to chaff or flares. Sokil veered perpendicular to the threat, forcing the R-77's Doppler radar to distinguish his motion from ground clutter. This maneuver inadvertently put him in the engagement zone of a silent Tor M2 system. As he entered range, the Tor activated its radar, locking on with 9 M338 missiles. Sokil was trapped between the Su-35 behind and the Tor ahead. Malinovka remained 56 miles away, too far for the JDAM-ER despite its extended range. His only option was to thread the needle. Sokil rolled the MiG and pulled the stick, executing a half S-turn, diving from 15,000 to 10,000 feet in seconds. This put terrain between him and the Tor, forcing the Su-35 to adjust its firing solution. But diving into denser air burned fuel faster and shortened the JDAM's glide range. Each foot of altitude lost reduced the bomb's reach. Sokil released all 60 flares, creating a fiery curtain to deceive the Tor's backup optical systems. The Su-35's OLS-35 IRT system, however, filtered through the decoys, locking passively onto the MiG's true heat signature without emitting radar. Sokil activated the targeting pod to verify the drop point. The Soviet-era optics struggled at this altitude and angle, barely outlining the ammo depot through the evening haze. The JDAM didn't need a perfect image, just coordinates within a 16-foot CEP. The Russian pilot fired. An R-77 missile launched, accelerating past Mach 4, 58 seconds from impact. Simultaneously, the Tor M2 fired 2 9M338 missiles, each on different intercept vectors, forming a lethal trap. Dodging the first 9M338 by banking left would put Sokil in the path of the second. Flying straight to evade both would make him a sitting duck for the R-77. Fuel was at 4,189 pounds, with each second of afterburner consuming 20 pounds, pushing the return flight to the danger zone. Sokil gritted his teeth, analyzing the situation in a split second. He saw his only chance lay in exploiting terrain and missile characteristics. The R-77's active radar was sensitive to Doppler motion, but vulnerable to ground clutter at low altitude. The Tor M2's 9M338 missiles, though fast and accurate, had limited intercept angles at low levels. Sokil gambled on a double roll with a sharp altitude drop. He shoved the stick, flipping the MiG-29 and diving from 15,000 feet at a 30-degree angle toward a narrow valley 6 miles away. The RD-33 engines roared, pushing the speed to 808 miles per hour, burning 99 pounds of fuel in 5 seconds of intense maneuvering. The dive dropped him to 8,202 feet, where rugged terrain began shielding him from the Tor M2 radar. The RWR screamed as the R-77 held lock, but the signal weakened as he skimmed a hill, forcing the missile's Doppler seeker to distinguish him from ground clutter. Without pausing, Sokil executed a Z-turn, banking sharply right then left, creating chaotic motion. G-forces spiked to 8G, draining blood from his brain, vision blurring into bright spots. He released 20 more flares, each igniting like a small sun, forming an infrared screen. One 9M338 was fooled, veering into the flares and exploding harmlessly 984 feet away. The second 9M338, however, adjusted its path at Mach 2.8 just 4 seconds from impact. In a desperate moment, Sokil spotted a dense forest ahead, its thick canopy capable of disrupting the Tor M2's optical guidance. He dropped to 5,905 feet, skimming treetops at 746 mph. The afterburners consumed another 132 pounds of fuel, but the forest canopy scrambled the missile's infrared signal. The second 9M338 lost its target, looping aimlessly before self-destructing. The R-77 from the Su-35 remained a threat. At 12 miles, its active radar relocked. Sokil knew he couldn't keep evading without losing the chance to drop the bombs. He resorted to a final tactic, a 360-degree barrel roll to disrupt the R-77's firing solution. The roll spun the MiG around its longitudinal axis, slowing to 559 miles per hour, but creating an unpredictable path, forcing the R-77 to adjust constantly. G-forces fluctuated between 6 and 9 G, crushing Sokil's body, but he held the stick, completing the roll as the R-77 streaked past, missing the left wing by 164 feet before losing its target and crashing. Emerging from the brink, Sokil stabilized the MiG at 6,562 feet, checking the fuel gauge. 4,012 pounds, enough to reach the drop point, but with no margin for another maneuver. He reactivated the targeting pod, confirming Malinovka's coordinates on the dim screen. With 2 JDAM-ER bombs ready, Sokil pressed forward, knowing each second brought him closer to the target, or to failure. Full afterburners engaged, he raced toward the drop point. At 2:47 p.m., he pressed the release button. The first JDAM detached, its wings deploying as it entered glide mode. The second followed immediately. Both bombs self-navigated as Sokil fought for survival. At 2:53 p.m., the first JDAM struck Malinovka. Its 500-pound warhead detonated, triggering secondary explosions from the ammo depot. Artillery shells, grad rockets, and small arms ammunition erupted in a symphony of destruction. A BTR-82 was flung 164 feet, and windows shattered 3 miles away. 45 seconds later, the second JDAM hit the command post, obliterating the 39th and 110th Guards Brigade's coordination hub. Communication equipment and planning documents were vaporized, disrupting Russia's offensive toward Pokrovsk. Using the massive smoke plume as cover, Sokil limped back to Ukrainian airspace at 656 feet. With 882 pounds of fuel, he had 10 minutes of gentle flight, or 5 with afterburners. The Su-35 turned back, avoiding Ukraine's air defense missile coverage. Malinovka burned, with secondary explosions raging for hours, destroying tons of munitions. The Malinovka mission showcased the Ukrainian Air Force's ingenuity and courage. Integrating JDAM-ER bombs onto a MiG-29, penetrating Russia's air defense network, and destroying a strategic target was a technical and tactical triumph. Captain Sokil, with extraordinary skill and relentless determination, reshaped the battlefield, halting Russia's advance and saving thousands of lives in Pokrovsk. 2 American bombs, dropped from a Soviet jet, proved that ingenuity and resolve can overcome any barrier.